sign him this summer, it's absolutely possible. But given this injury and the fact that he's a free agent this summer, really, you're not going to get that much in return for him. And if you think he's an answer in your top four, and I absolutely think he is, why would you trade him? So I think he's certainly here to stay.
Christian Ehrhoff, Paul Martin, both guys who are up for contract renewal or they're unrestricted free agents this offseason. There's a lot of money on the table there, specifically with Paul Martin's contract, and there's a lot of money to be cleared if the Penguins are going to make way for a guy like possibly Jordan Staal. Now, this is a report that you had this weekend, and what is the Penguins' interest in Jordan Staal? What is the sense that you're getting here? Obviously, the number 3 center role, Brandon Sutter has had his ups and downs, and it's been kind of a down year for him in a lot of ways. And it's so it's an area where the Penguins probably need to improve on, whether it's believing in Sutter for the future or looking at a guy like Jordan Staal. So what's the temperature on this that you're talking about?
Well, the Penguins' interest in Jordan Staal is very legitimate. I wrote this story Saturday night. I think it went online toward the end of the Penguins-Blues game. Mm-hmm. And so that's booked in 3 days now. And, when you write a story, we've all been there in this business. You might write a story that's not 100% accurate or might have a flaw here and there. Trust me, people in the organization, they let you know about it within about 2 seconds. It's been 3 days. I haven't heard one word from anybody in the organization disputing that report, or have I heard from anybody in the Carolina organization. They absolutely want Jordan Staal. Is it likely to happen before the deadline? No, I don't think so. To be honest with you, I think Carolina's in a place right now where, in all likelihood, they're going to wait to see where they end up in the draft lottery. If they happen to luck out and get a Connor McDavid, that changes everything for them. But the fact is, they're in a situation right now where they are playing in front of a lot of empty seats down there in Raleigh right now. They're an organization that's kind of stuck in the mud. They're hemorrhaging money. Staal could be made available at some point. A lot of people on Twitter like to accuse myself and Mr. Rossi of making up stories. I've done that a lot in the last couple of days. I assure you we don't do that. And the Penguins' interest, Rutherford has even gone on the record since and admitted that the Penguins are interested in Jordan Staal. I think he's been trying to acquire him for a while, quite frankly. He loves Staal, just as Ray Shero did before him, in fact. And Rutherford just feels like the Penguins have never been the same since Jordan Staal left. And, maybe that's true. I don't know. I guess you could make that argument. And Jordan has certainly been a disappointment in Raleigh, and he makes a ton of money for a long time. So it certainly is not an ideal contract. But are the Penguins going to continue to inquire about him before the trade deadline and in the next summer? Absolutely.
And we've seen teams use the media sometimes for either negotiations or to put a story out there to kind of generate some interest from across the league for different things. Or if you're a super tinfoil hat, you might think that you're doing it from a public relations standpoint to where, the Penguins are losing, so let's drop this Jordan Staal story in the news so everybody stops talking about it. If this is a media plant in some way, let's say, and I'm not saying that it is, what do you think the message would be from the Pittsburgh Penguins to the league going into the trade deadline if they're saying that Jordan Staal is a guy who would be someone who we'd be interested in?
Well, it tells me that they're not real happy with their bottom six and with Brandon Sutter in particular. Sutter was really good in the playoffs last year. I actually liked his October a lot. Hasn't been very good since then. And, if you look back at recent Penguins history, when Crosby and Malkin and Staal were all healthy, they didn't really lose much in the playoffs. 2011 against Tampa, Crosby and Malkin were out. 2010 against Montreal, Staal had a severed foot and, played sporadically against Montreal in that series. 2007, they were all kids and Crosby was playing with a broken foot. So really the only times they ever lost in the playoffs when they were healthy were to the mighty Red Wings in 2008 and against the Flyers in 2012. And frankly, Crosby still wasn't himself anyway. So the Penguins are still aware of that. And they never wanted to trade Jordan Staal. Jordan made it very evident that he wanted to go play with his brother, and they were respectful of that. And frankly, Rutherford gave up a lot to get him. But the fact is there's a good chance Eric Stahl's not going to be there much longer. He makes more than $8 million a year, and let me tell you something, he's not an $8 million a year player right now.
No.
And there's no guarantee that they're going to re-sign him when his contract is up, and Jordan knows that, and everybody knows that. And if Eric Staal gets traded or he doesn't come back, well, what's the point if you're Jordan Staal? You don't get to play with your brother anymore, and you're playing for a terrible team that's going nowhere. So Raleigh's a nice talent, but I don't care how much you like it. Jordan likes to win, so I think the Penguins know that Jordan would probably be happy to come back. That's what we've been told, that he'd be willing to waive his no-trade clause if the Penguins were the team that came calling. And it's not imminent or anything, but they've tried to get him in the last few months, and they'll try to get him again.
Eric Staal certainly is aging, and especially with that $8 million number attached to him, that's never not a welcome thing for many teams in the salary cap era. Jordan Staal, though, has gone through his own growing pains in these last 2 years with Carolina. He has not been the player he was with Pittsburgh, and I have to wonder, is a $6 million price tag for the next 4 years worth it for the Penguins and Jordan Staal?
Oh, I think that's a great question, and I have my questions about that. I have my doubts. I've long been a Jordan Staal fan. He's one of those guys who, I think Jordan was underrated for so long that at some point he probably became a little bit overrated.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hard to gauge him, quite honestly, and what he brings. He's not a great offensive player. He's just not. He's not a skilled guy. I mean, he'll score you 20 goals a year, 25 a year, and he'll play shutdown defense. That's what he does. And, hey, there's a market for a guy like that, obviously. Is it $6 million? Might be a little high, frankly. Maybe Staal should be making like 4.5, something like that, if I had to say. But, he did give the Penguins a unique weapon with those three guys down the middle. And with all due respect to Sutter, he's not in Jordan Staal's league. Mm-hmm. And you know what? If you're going to pay Brandon Sutter $3.3 million a year, I don't know, it's 2.7 more for Staal. When you look at it in those terms, I don't know if it's that big of a deal. I think they could probably make it work. Would it be difficult? Yeah. That's why, if they are able to orchestrate a trade like this, it's probably far more likely to take place in the summer when you have more time to sit down and actually sort through all the details. But, like I said, the Penguins are very interested in him. And as for, the report coming out and, where the information came from and what the reasoning was, listen, is it possible that the Penguins wanted to somehow communicate with Jordan to let him know, hey, we're looking for you? I guess it's possible. I don't know. He still has friends on the team anyway. Who knows what's said behind closed doors in these situations? I have no idea. But Jim Rutherford, he's pretty open. In fact, he's the most open general manager I've ever been around. But he loves Jordan Staal. He makes absolutely no secrets about it.
Yeah, that is something that is sort of interesting to me because Mike Colligan, who does great work, and he just opened up his own.
That's the great Mike Colligan to you.
Yes, the great Mike Colligan, and he just started up his own website, which is great. I think it's ColliganHockey.com. But I'm trying to find the quote right now, but I don't have it right in front of me. But anyway, I'll sort of paraphrase what he was saying. He found a quote from Jim Rutherford. It was probably circa 2008, 2009, around that time, where he was talking about the way he approaches his job as a general manager and how he doesn't let things leak and how he's very tight-lipped and that's his style and that's how he approaches the job. What has changed? Was he really ever that way, or does he have a concept of what of what his style really is? Because that's not the Jim Rutherford that I know.
No, I mean, I don't think I would put it past him to maybe put some misinformation out there here and there to try to divert attention. I think all general managers do that. So that's something that happens. But from the day Jim took over, my gosh, he's been stunningly open about information. I called him a week before free agency, and I asked him if there was any chance Matt Niskanen was going to be re-signed, and he said absolutely not. I said, whoa, okay. I wasn't really expecting that, but he's very free with information. If you want to talk, tight to the vest, that was Ray Shero. I mean, Ray was basically running the CIA when he was in charge of the Penguins. He didn't let information get out, and he never really had a feel for what he was thinking. Jim's pretty honest about things, and I find it refreshing. I really do. But yeah, this last few days were very interesting with this Staal story, and Jim's been quoted in a couple of other publications of saying absolutely, I love Jordan Staal, and basically saying of course he's a better player than Sutter. So you don't hear GM say that about other teams' players very often.
And let's make it clear, just because the Carolina Hurricanes say that there's no possibility in the trade doesn't mean that the Penguins aren't interested. Those two aren't related.
Listen, I had a lot of people on Twitter tell me yesterday, Ron Francis said he's not going to trade him. Like, okay. Well, what do you expect Ron Francis to say?
Right.
Is he going to say, yes, I'm about to trade Jordan Staal? Can't do that. Is he just going to be silent about it? No. He has to say something when a report comes out. So, of course, he's going to say that. Ray Shero said he wasn't going to trade Jordan Staal about 2 days before he did it. I mean, that's all Ronnie could say. Now, was Ronnie happy that Jim Rutherford was quoted about it? I would guess no. Probably not. From what I've heard, Ronnie's another guy who's really quiet and doesn't like information to get out. So, I'm sure when he saw those quotes, it kind of got his attention. I have no doubt. But, yeah, I mean, if you're Carolina, especially if you don't get McDavid or Eichel, and the odds are they won't, you're hemorrhaging money right now. Nobody's going to see them play. You've got Staal, the older Staal Eric, who's, I think, clearly past his prime at this point. Jeff Skinner's a good player, but he's always hurt. Jordan's not been very good there, and you got Justin Falk, who's a wonderful player. That's about all they've got. I mean, that's, I think, really a team that has no marketability at all, and they're losing money. And if you're going to keep losing money, and you got a guy who's making $6 million a year for the next 8 years, well, guess what? Of course, you're going to think about trading him. You'd be foolish not to.
So the defense of the Penguins continues to improve as the season progresses. We talked about the 2.18 goals against per game that we're sitting at right now in February. If the power play can get over the hump and Crosby and Malkin return to what's normal for them, this team might not be as bad off as what people make them out to be. I'm still not sold that they're a Stanley Cup favorite in any way, and I know you're not. But, I mean, look at that Eastern Conference. Like, who is the favorite in this conference? It's very wide open.
Yeah, I don't know that there is a favorite. If you ask me today who I thought the best teams in the East were, or at least the team is best built to win in the playoffs, I'd probably say the Rangers and Canadians, but I wouldn't say it with a lot of confidence.
Now,
the Penguins.
I would say that the Canadians are kind of interesting to me, though, because if I had to pick of the teams who are currently in the playoff picture in that Eastern Conference, I think the Penguins and the Canadians probably match up the best from the Penguins side.
Sure, absolutely. The Penguins have played really well against them this season. It's a very good matchup. One thing about the Canadians is they're not a big team, and neither are the Penguins, so that's not something that would give them trouble. I think that's why the Capitals, for instance, has been such of a problem. But no, the Penguins' power play is the elephant in the room. I mean, if it gets hot, and we saw how good it was early in the season, it's a huge difference maker. We talk about Crosby being barely over a point per game this season. If the power play hadn't been awful for the last 3 months, Crosby's numbers would probably look somewhat close to where they usually are. He'd be leading the league in scoring. His goal scoring might still be down a little bit, but I guarantee he would be leading the league in scoring. The power play has just collapsed. I wish I had an explanation for you. I don't understand it. I know everyone says, they don't shoot enough, and I agree. It does get far too fancy at times. That's Crosby and Malkin more than anybody. But it certainly has looked better the last couple of games. We've seen power play goals against St. Louis and against the Panthers, and just watching that power play in practice, and they worked on it a lot today. They had Malkin at the left point, which I know he doesn't really care for, but he can do it. And when you have he and Crosby on separate sides of the ice, I think that's a good thing. And they looked really good just for what it's worth in practice today. Because there have been times during the last couple of months when it was just abysmal in practice. They couldn't do anything right. And all of a sudden, they've got a little bit of a swagger about them with that power play. And my gosh, is that a big deal. Even though the NHL is not calling much in the way of penalties this season, in fact, I think it's at an all-time low, still, if you have a power play that can score at any time, it makes a world of difference, especially when you consider just how evenly matched the East is.
You're talking about a difference where goals for in February are 2.45. In November, it's 3.21. The difference there is the power play, 100%, because the way it was clicking in November, that's not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. But I certainly don't think that they're as bad as we've seen for the last month and a half either. Now, I'm a Mike Johnson fan so far, and a lot of the decisions that he makes. So when I see him split Crosby and Malkin on the power play, I give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in the